With the Bills trading away Stephon Diggs just a few days ago, the Buffalo Bills look completely screwed for the 2024 season. The last few seasons they've been Super Bowl contenders, but they've never made it past the conference championship. In the last 3 seasons, they've been knocked out in the divisional round, with them losing a lot of good players with little to no replacement. It's not looking good. First, let's go back to 2017. The previous season, they went 7-9 and missed the playoffs for like the 17th straight year in the season, but that draft class in 2017 was pretty good. In the first round, they got cornerback Tre'Davious White. In the second round, they got receiver Zay Jones and guard Deion Dawkins. And then all the way in the 5th round, they got linebacker Matt Milano. We don't talk about Nathan Peterman though. This young and talented roster, led by first-year head coach Sean McDermott and quarterback Tyrod Taylor, would make the playoffs for the first time since 1999, the longest playoff drought in NFL history, and they'd make the playoffs at a 9-7 record. However, the Bills would lose a sloppy game in the wildcard round to the biggest one-year wonder in NFL history, which would mark the end of their season, but hey, it's okay. The Bills, they were just happy to be there, and the future is bright in Buffalo, even though it's really cloudy there. However, Tyrod Taylor was not the answer going forward. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't going to lead the Bills to a Super Bowl, so something had to change. And their first move of business was trading away Tyrod Taylor to the Cleveland Browns for some picks, and in hindsight, in retrospect, this really isn't a big trade. That's just something that happened, but it is important. And then in the NFL draft, the Bills would trade up to number 7 overall to take the quarterback from Wyoming, Josh Allen, as their QB1 for the future. Many people thought this was a bad pick because UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen was still on the board and he had number 1 overall pick potential, and many people thought Allen was a stretch. But the Bills, in hindsight, did make the right pick. Outside of that, this really wasn't a bad draft, as also in the first round, the Bills would draft 19-year-old Tremaine Edmonds, who has not been bad in the NFL at all. He made back-to-back Pro Bowls, and he's currently on the Bears. Also later in the draft, the Bills would draft Teron Johnson and Cyril Neal, who have both been solid parts of the defense. And also in the 5th round, guard Wyatt Teller. Teller's one of the best linemen in the NFL. Only thing is he's playing on the Browns. In fact, he's played every season in Cleveland besides his rookie season in 2018. So the Bills really fumbled on that one. Speaking of fumbling, Josh Allen did that a lot his rookie season and much more. He just was not good in his first season. Just a little over 2,000 passing yards, 10 touchdowns compared to 12 interceptions and 8 fumbles, which is awful. But granted, he was a very good rusher, and the Bills did go 5-6 with him. However, the Bills would go 6-10 and miss the playoffs altogether. This was a rough season, but the Bills haven't had a losing season, and they haven't missed the playoffs since. In the 2019 NFL draft, the Bills wouldn't draft anyone too crazy. They draft Ed Oliver in the first round. He's been pretty decent on the defense. Cody Ford in the second round. He's been pretty solid on the offensive line. And Devin Singletary and Dawson Knox in the 3rd round. Devin Singletary on the Texans. We're going to talk about the Texans a lot in this video, and Dawson Knox has not been a bad tight end at all. In 2019 would be the next step for the Bills into the playoffs. In 2019, the Bills would go 10-6, good enough for the 5th seed in the AFC, and they'd be back in the playoffs. And well, the Bills, they finally took the next step. One of the reasons this team was so good was because of the defense, which was led by 2 safeties in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, who were both acquired in 2017. Josh Allen also took a strong second-year leap as he passed for 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, and he started all games, and that touchdown-interception ratio is looking a lot better from his rookie year. However, in the wildcard round, the Bills would lose to the Texans in overtime 22-19, and this was a well-fought game. But if you're a Bills fan, don't be too sad about this because the future is still very bright. And honestly, the Bills are one big move away from making a Super Bowl run. Stephon Diggs. In the 2020 offseason, the Bills would acquire Stephon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings, and in return, the Bills would give the Vikings their 2020 first-round pick, and as you can see from the headline below, it turned to one of the best win-win trades in NFL history, mainly because the Vikings, with that first-round pick, took Justin Jefferson, and he has turned into one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL. So well, we now know what's happening with Stephon Diggs, so the Bills might be regretting this trade. But anyway, the duo of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs would open the floodgates for this Bills team, as they would finish 13-3, winning the AFC East for the first time since the 1990s, and it looked like the Bills were finally back, and they were. One of the reasons why the Bills are so good this year was because Josh Allen absolutely exploded onto the scene, becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, throwing for over 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and finishing second in MVP voting. That photo isn't the best photo of Stephon Diggs, but anyway, in 2020, Stephon Diggs would easily have the best season of his career, racking in over 127 receptions, over 1,500 yards, and 8 touchdowns, becoming a top 5 receiver in the NFL. In the wildcard round, the Bills would barely squeak out a win over the Colts 27-24, marking the first time the Bills won a playoff game since the 90s. And in the divisional round, the Bills would beat the Ravens 17-3, mainly off of a huge Teron Johnson pick 6, and in the background, you can see Josh Allen jumping up and down. He's very happy. However, the Bills would lose in the AFC Championship to the Chiefs 38-24, where this infamous photo was born, where Stephon Diggs was looking at the Chiefs as they celebrated their AFC Championship win. A photo was inspirational at the time. However, nowadays, it is the bane to the Bills and probably Stephon Diggs' existence. Wow, I said that really wrong. It's their bane to their existence. The season sadly ended on a playoff loss, but hey, entering 2021, they're Super Bowl contenders, so 2021 could finally be the year the Bills win the Super Bowl. In 2021, the Bills would go 11-6 and win the AFC East, however, in a very tight battle with the Patriots, and like I said, they went 11-6, which was a step back from last season, but the entire AFC in general would take a step back, so it would make it easier for the Bills to go on a Super Bowl run. In the wildcard round, the Bills would destroy the Patriots 47-14, showing the Patriots that they are the new boss of the AFC East. It's the divisional round, and they're about to take on the Chiefs in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship, and everyone was remembering about this photo. It was about time to take revenge on the Chiefs, and it was about time to make the Super Bowl, even though they're still 2 wins away. So, what happened? They would lose in heartbreaking fashion, 42-36 in overtime, in one of the greatest NFL games of all time. This is one of the greatest games in NFL history because with under 2 minutes left, it was 26-21 Kansas City, and we went to overtime with it being tied 36-36, and not only that, but with 13 seconds left, the Bills were winning by 3, and the Chiefs got the ball back with 13 seconds left, so it just makes it even more painful for the Bills. Not only that, but wide receiver Gabe Davis would have one of the greatest playoff games of all time by a wide receiver, having 8 receptions, 200 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and even though his regular season play is very inconsistent, he was a key part of this Bill offense for the last few years. But hey, the Bills are still Super Bowl contenders, maybe next year. Now, 2022 was looking different from most years. The Bills were the best team in the AFC all season long. Josh Allen was looking like an MVP, but they weren't the 1 seed because they had to cancel a game, and that's because safety Damar Hamlin nearly died on the field. And even though they're not the 1 seed, this was just motivation for the Bills to play even harder in the playoffs, and it looked like the Bills were destined to win the Super Bowl for Damar. I'm not trying to overdo it or anything or get views off this or make it corny or anything like that, but this was a main storyline. It was very hard to try to ignore it. But this is the year for the Bills. They got unlucky the last 2 years. They know how to beat the Chiefs this time around. They already did it in the regular season. They would be the number 1 seed if they didn't cancel a game. This is the year. In the wildcard round, they barely beat the Dolphins led by Skylar Thompson at home, and this should have been alarming by how barely they beat the Dolphins, but we really just brushed it off to the side. With hindsight, Vision's 2020, and we should have been alarmed. And in the next round, the Bills would lose to the Bengals 27-10 at home, ending their season. And this loss hurt a little more. 1, because the Bengals were the team they played when Damar Hamlin collapsed. Even though, the Bengals didn't mean to, it still meant a little more. And 2, this was the 3rd straight year where it looked like the Bills could possibly make the Super Bowl and overcome the Chiefs. but they lost to another team instead, and they didn't make the Super Bowl at all. It was becoming frustrating and becoming disappointing for not just Bills fans, but every fan. So entering 2023, people were slowly starting to fall off the Bills Super Bowl train. They're slowly starting to get on the divisional round AFC Championship loss train. But the Bills would somehow prove that they were Super Bowl contenders yet again. It was getting really annoying. Despite starting 6-6, the Bills would go on a 5-game winning streak and earn the second seed in the AFC, going 11-6. Besides the Ravens, the AFC was kind of weak this year, and that includes the Chiefs, who were really cold, and they were the third seed at 11-6, which meant that the Bills would be playing Kansas City and Buffalo if they played each other. And look, this was finally the year for Buffalo to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are cold, the Bills are hot, they're playing in Buffalo. This is they would lose yet again. Despite the Bills being better overall this year, with them having more talent, and with them having every opportunity to win, they lost. They completely blew it. This time around, it looked like the Bills were going to make some massive offseason moves. They would start by releasing safety Jordan Poyer, releasing guard Mitch Morse, releasing Cyron Neal, releasing running back Nyheim Hines, and maybe the biggest of them all, releasing cornerback Tre'Davious White. And as you can see, it's a clear overhaul. They are going for a new direction. And it does not stop there, my friends. They would let their wide receiver to walk in Gabe Davis as he would sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And of course, the most obvious, the final nail in the coffin, the Bills trading away Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans for some draft picks. Really what the Bills are doing, they're going through a mini rebuild. They knew this core wasn't going to get it done, so they're setting up new guys for Josh Allen. Now obviously, this offensive stack, that's not going to be their main day one offense. They're going to draft someone like a Donnie Mitchell in the drafts, and not only that, but they also have some decent guys like Dalton Kincaid, who's due for a breakout in his second season, and Dawson Knox. And the O-line isn't all too bad either. And the defense, it's decent. They've kept some guys. Really the main thing you have to worry on is Von Miller's massive contract, and with him regressing a lot, and with him getting a lot older, that's a lot of money to bear. A lot of horrible money. I just don't know how to put it. It's a horrible contract. But anyway, what we expect from the Bills in 2024 is a slight step back, maybe 10-7, 9-8, but they're going to be back. It's a mini rebuild. They knew this core wasn't going to get it done, and while they might be screwed for 2024, I don't think they're screwed for the rest of the future. And that's about it. Bye.